Welcome to Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's extra episode this week. So as the title of this episode goes, do you know your wounds? Earlier this week, I posted a show called Your Relationship Explained with the Harville Hendrix, creator of Imago Therapy and author of several books, including Getting the Love You Want and Keeping the Love You Find. And I know we talked about it on the show, and, I have several podcasts, and on Women, Men, and Relationships, Doug and I had a whole conversation about the Harville Hendrix show because I wanted him to hear it first, and I wanted his feedback, I wanted his impressions, and I wanted to hear from his point of view what he got out of it. And one of the things that he mentioned was that we choose our partners to heal the wounds of our past. And for him, that was somewhat of a new concept. I told him that back in January or February or March of this year. And when I was working with him as a client, and then obviously when we got together, I definitely mentioned it and I had him do the workbook and the worksheets. And what I was reflecting on last night as we were recording, so for anyone who wants to hear the conversation with Doug and I about the Imago therapy and about how he understood it as a man and what it meant to him as a man and where he's had to go in his life, and same thing for me and some of the insights that I got out of actually re-listening and editing my own show. I'm not going to go through that completely here. That is on Women, Men, and Relationships, so go ahead and go over to that show and download that. It's episode number 66. But what I reflected on last night while we were recording was the idea that I was a believer in the Imago therapy model the minute I was explained what it was. Because to me, it leveled the playing field. Imago therapy, when you say that you choose your partners to heal the wounds of your past, it means that both people have stuff to heal. And we're unconsciously matching with another person in order to get that growth. So it levels the playing field right off the bat. Well, I, in my marriage, could look at myself and actually question. I wasn't sure what wounds I needed to heal. And I actually didn't read the book or do the workbook way back then because I had always thought I had to do it with a partner. So I didn't do it by myself. What I did do, though, was I did reflect over time and ask myself questions and think about, where I had wounds. And trust me, I had wounds and I have wounds. And I came across a situation with my husband at the time that then was reflected in my mother like a couple hours later that had me thinking, oh my God, this is what I have to heal. And it was a pretty profound moment to see that my mother and my husband were really very similar. And they are. And make the connection about what it is in me that needs to be let go of in order for them to suffer their own consequences, for them to not feel pressured, for me not to feel stressed or controlling. And I really thought that was one of my main things to heal. So today's show is really to stimulate the awareness in yourself. If you haven't done the exercise yet, or if you're going to come to the live event or get the virtual ticket, you're going to get all the worksheets to do it, and you'll get the accountability to do it, you'll get the support to do it, and you'll get the workshopping of it if you come to the event. But it wasn't until I actually did the sheets. And now there are, I think, 15 or 20 different exercises in the book, and this is exercise number 3. And when I did it, I had a whole new understanding of my wounds, and they weren't what I thought they were. So it's a very eye-opening experience, and not that we can't notice that our behavior produces a trigger, or our ideas and our concepts and our beliefs and our reactions, and let us know where we have wounds inside of us. Because when you're upset about a situation or at a person, remember, life is mirroring you. So whatever you don't like is most likely living inside of you, so that way when you connect with it, whether it be something that you believe, let's take, for example, when someone criticizes you or says something about you. The reason why most of the time it's hurtful to most people is because somewhere inside of you, you either believe it or wonder if it could be true. So let's take the situation of someone says, in my industry, you're fat, or you don't know anything, or you're too skinny to understand what it's like to be me, which has happened. And when there's an issue of confidence, and for me, I dealt with that for a long time in this field because I'm not a doctor. I am a certified personal trainer, but I know way more than a regular average trainer, even in the training field, even in just the sciences of the body, because this is not a regulated industry. And there are too many good-looking people who work out really poorly, who injure people's joints on a regular basis, who don't understand science. But for some reason, because of the way they look, people just assume they must know what they're doing, or that what they do for themselves will work on all of their clients. And that's not actually true. So in order to maintain my own autonomy throughout my career in this fitness industry that is narcissistic and shaming, I sort of rebelled against a lot of that for a long time. And while I want to have more musculature and I'm looking forward to getting leaner and leaner as time goes on, I don't hold myself in that same light of that just because I'm not a bodybuilder doesn't mean I don't know something. But my own confidence had to be built up over time. In the beginning, because I didn't know science and because I didn't have the education that I have now, I would be easily triggered. I'd be defensive. And I'd be concerned about somebody saying something bad about me because I also didn't know that it wasn't true. So when somebody says something to you or makes a comment about you, and if it's something that you resonate with or it bothers you, it's because somewhere in you believe it. So I would invite you to take a look at things that trigger you as a way to indicate something that needs to be healed. It's a story that I told on the show with Doug today on women, men, and relationships. And it's a story I'm sure I've told in the past. When at the beginning of my relationship, my husband and I would get into an argument about something, I noticed that I would get defensive. And, I have a lot of Sag in me. Sages are truth seekers. Yes, I'm a Pisces. So there's part of me that's a huge, gushy, mushy, heart, emotional person who does care. And I care so much, and I care so much about finding out what I consider to be truth or education. And many of you resonate with that because that's why you listen to me. That's why you like this show, because I span both the left and the right brain. You feel my heart, but you hear my words and you trust that I'm giving you information that I've either researched or that I understand on different levels. I'm not just pumping out bullshit because for whatever reason, right? I can't sell you law of attraction. It doesn't make me any money to sell you law of attraction. And I just want to help people, and I understand all the intricacies of explaining it to people who don't get it. So at the beginning, I was definitely defensive when it seemed like I was being blamed for doing something wrong. And you can't tell another person to go to therapy, and you can't tell another person they have issues. All you can do is work on yourself. You can try, and maybe they'll be open to it. But the likelihood is anytime we judge another person and tell them that they need to do something, just because of their own autonomy, they're going to say no and rebel. So I learned that very quickly, and I already knew that, but it doesn't mean you don't do it when you're in the heat of the moment. So now I'm looking at myself saying, well, what can I do? And I realized I'm defensive. I am defending myself. And, well, what's another response? And what does that mean? What am I afraid of? Well, I uncovered that I was afraid of being wrong. I was afraid that I didn't understand what was going on. And on some level, I didn't. On some level, I didn't understand what I needed to do differently in some cases. And in some cases, I was just scared of someone not receiving or understanding my heart because it was being delivered in the form of education. So I took myself to therapy and I uncovered that, and I knew what it was about. I knew it was, not wanting to be wrong and wanting to be understood and wanting to be seen and heard and taken seriously and respected and to feel confident about what I was doing and what I knew. And I worked on that in a couple different ways, and I uncovered some traumas and some triggers, and we did some EMDR and did some hypnosis, and I shifted it. So along your path, you're going to, anytime you have a trauma or a trigger, that's a gift to say, wow, what did that trigger in me right now? Oh, it triggered fear. It triggered shame. It triggered anger. It triggered survival. I'm afraid of survival, because then that's something to work on. That's something to heal. So the question still remains, do you know what you need to heal? Do you know what your wounds are? And there's no right or wrong answer. There's the answer that you know now, and then there's the answers that you're going to know soon. Because if you want to, you'll do the work. And as life goes on, things will be uncovered. Which is why I was a little bit nervous after the Harville show about my new relationship, because I am kind of going, let's see, what else do I need to heal? And I'm not saying I don't have to heal things to heal. I absolutely do. But because I have done so much work over the years, and I'm sort of the same person now as I was a year or two ago, and I've grown and I've deepened and I've expanded and I don't get triggered very often at all, I thought, well, what's next for me? So if you're someone who thinks they understand what your wounds are, I invite you to take a deeper dive and to do the Imago workbook, which is Getting the Love You Want. It's the workbook, not the book, although get them both. They're both valuable and priceless. Or come to the event so we can do it together. And everybody can also workshop what to do about it. So you'll get the extra benefit there. Or, do the virtual ticket so we hold your feet to the fire to get it done, because it's not short. It's going to take you 20 or 30 minutes to do it. It's several pages. You're going to need to set time aside to actually focus on it. But when you get, and it's going to maybe frustrate you and upset you when you actually start to think about it. And when you get to the end where he ties it all together and you pull a little bit from each piece, that's where the magic happens. And that is when you start to uncover really probably a few things you didn't know about yourself, even if you've been in therapy for a long time. I love efficiency, and I love to bypass all of the extra BS that people have to go through. I'm not, we all process at different levels, at different speeds, and we need different things. So for some people, they need to be uncomfortable for a really long time. I have a very low threshold for discomfort, which is why I'm on this sort of fast path. So if I'm uncomfortable about something, or I'm unhappy about something, or I don't like something, I figure it out and I change it, because I know and trust that I can be happy and comfortable and whole and feeling good and trusting all the time. So when something gets in the way of that, I go, something else to clean up. But for some of you, you've been in habits and patterns so long, you have no idea what freedom feels like on the other side. You have no idea the relief that's in store for you when some of this stuff starts to clear. Again, which is why I'm doing these events. They're a lot of work, guys. I'm not doing this just because. This is not easy. It's fun. It's amazing. But it's a commitment, and I'm committed to taking what we talk about here and doing something with it for you and for me. So consider making a list, if you will, of some of the wounds you think you have, and then watch in time, keep a journal, to see how that starts to change or how you uncover things a little bit deeper than that. And again, I invite you to come over to Women, Men, and Relationships and download that episode. It's definitely entertaining, but I share a little bit more about what came up for me, because I recorded that interview months ago and I just edited it days ago, and I was in a different place when I recorded it than I was when I published it. So that was really interesting. So I'm not going to make this any longer today because you had an extra long session on Tuesday this week, but I will say thank you for downloading the show. If you haven't already, if you enjoy the show, I definitely appreciate those of you that share it. Thank you for tagging me on Instagram and on Facebook and leaving a review. I'd love any other love you're willing to give. So if you haven't done a rating and review on iTunes, I'd love that, both for Spirit, Purpose, and Energy, as well as Fit to Love and Women, Men, and Relationships. And and then follow me on Instagram, connect with me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook, connect with me on Facebook, although I think I'm out of friends, so we have to do the other page. But I do appreciate all of your feedback, those of you who keep asking questions, because you help me to direct what I want to talk about to really resonate with what you're going through. So this becomes an active community, even if I don't meet you. But of course, I want to meet you. So consider coming to the event. I'm not going to shut up about it. If you can't come in September, we have one in January. And I believe there's still a 5-pay option available for January. So you can get on that one right away. Go to jjflizanes.com and it's under events, both of them. So jjflizanes.com. Thank you again for listening. I do appreciate you, and I hope and know that you're growing at the exact pace you need to, and trust that you're enjoying the process along the way.